11 tonight, a Dispatches investigation. Paedophile MP Cyril Smith, how he got away with it, the pertinent question. Well, right now, tonight's Channel 4 News with John Snow and Jackie Long.
He was a serial paedophile. Tonight, the efforts the government and the law went to keep Cyril Smith's crimes from ever being prosecuted. Good evening. He was a prominent Liberal MP at a time of small parliamentary majorities. He was also a serial paedophile who molested his way across care homes in his constituency and beyond. But Cyril Smith was never prosecuted. Tonight we have the documentary evidence of the lengths to which the political and legal establishment went to ensure he would simply be allowed to continue in public life with no stain on his character. Also tonight, America's John Kerry and Russia's Sergei Lavrov land in Geneva to try to seize a deal on Syria's chemical weapons.
This is not a game, and I said that to my friend Sergei when we talked about it initially. It has to be real.
For sale, the Royal Mail, but it has cost taxpayers $12 billion to get us to this point. Money well spent? And amid the clamour for changes to provide better elderly care, we report tonight from an NHS hospital that says it's got it right. And it's revolutionised the way we watch television.
Now Netflix, the video streaming service, is making programmes of its own. So is it the end of television as we know it? Don't worry, when we talk to the boss, he tells us Channel 4 News will go on and on.
He was one of the Liberal Party's most senior MPs and a leading figure in national politics. But Cyril Smith was a serial paedophile who abused dozens of young boys and was never prosecuted. Tonight, new evidence has emerged revealing how MI5 and Special Branch buried his crimes. An investigation for Channel 4's Dispatches programme tonight has uncovered a police file which accuses him of a sordid series of indecent episodes with young boys. It was handed to prosecutors but then hidden and locked away for more than 4 decades. Smith went on abusing for years. He'd asked further questions about the way the Liberal Democrats handle such scandals. So soon after this programme revealed sexual harassment allegations against the party's former chief executive, Lord Reynard. Liz McKean has this exclusive report.
Cyril Smith was a celebrated figure who wooed the voters. He was Rochdale's Liberal MP during the 70s and 80s. His popularity made him one of the country's most high-profile politicians. Smith's name resurfaced last year during the Savile scandal, which led to a re-examination of the way sex abuse cases are handled and their victims dealt with. The Crown Prosecution Service admitted the MP should have been charged in his lifetime. A film for Dispatches tonight will show just how many opportunities were missed to stop him. A striking feature of Smith's case is that many of his victims complained at the time. One who first spoke to police nearly 50 years ago says the lack of action has driven him to speak out publicly.
So then I was stood there naked then towards him. He looked me up and down and he ran his hands all up and down my thighs and inside my legs and touched my private parts.
As a teenager, Kevin Griffiths lived at Cambridge House, a hostel set up by Smith in Rochdale, supposedly to help boys in need.
It wasn't right. I know it wasn't right, but I couldn't do nothing about it.
This former detective, Jack Tasker, was one of the first police officers to investigate Smith. He was convinced of his guilt.
He denied the sexual content and said to her, and he said, well, there might have been a little bit of chastisement for things he'd done wrong. And we asked him to explain that. He said, a smack.
From what you've said, either Cyril Smith was lying, or the 8 victims at Cambridge House
were lying, yes. I didn't think they were lying.
Lancashire Police carried out several investigations in the late 1960s and compiled this 80-page file, kept from the public until tonight. This shows the police were more than ready to prosecute him. and yet they weren't able to. In the file, police complain of veiled threats from local Liberals. Smith himself is accused of pressurising witnesses to withdraw their statements. The then local MP, Jack McCann, even spoke to the Director of Public Prosecutions on Smith's behalf, and shortly afterwards the case was dropped. So the police file, for all its detail and conviction, was marked NFA, no further action, not in the public interest. Instead, it was locked away in a safe at Special Branch, which usually deals with national security.
I could not understand at the time why a criminal file should come into the Special Branch offices to be kept in a locked safe.
The file didn't stay there long. Smith's political star was rising.
We need honesty in politics today. Straight talking. A bit more of a Christian-like attitude and less of the slangy.
In 1977, the Liberals were helping to keep the Labour government in power, and MI5 now took an interest in Smith's background. Tony Robinson took their call.
We understand that you have a file on Mr. Cyril Smith, the Liberal MP for Rochdale. Yes, we want that file sending down to this office this date by special courier.
So by now, Lancashire Police, Special Branch and MI5 all knew about the extensive allegations. The officer who first investigated Smith feels let down.
People say the police didn't care and they weren't interested. Well, quite frankly, we did care and we were interested. But I'm afraid there were very powerful people making sure that we didn't succeed.
And in Rochdale, the rumours about Smith finally found their way into print 10 years after the initial police investigation. This is when his Westminster colleagues were made aware of them. The Liberal Party leader, David Steele, was asked to comment. His office responded,
"It's not a very friendly gesture, publishing that. All he seems to have done is spank a few bare bottoms."
Lord Steele says that he asked Smith about the allegations and accepted his denial of wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Smith had helped set up another institution in Rochdale, Knollview School. It's where, in a further echo of Savile, he also had the keys. And where, when he was 8, Chris Marshall became Smith's youngest known victim.
They had the evidence to stop him, didn't they? It was given enough evidence, they knew what he was up to.
Tonight comes further evidence of the scale of Smith's offending. In the last year, a major Met Police investigation has focused on a former hotel in southwest London, Elm Guest House, where during the 1980s a paedophile ring was reportedly active. After much speculation online, the Met Police have confirmed to us tonight that Cyril Smith was a visitor there. There's no suggestion that Smith's Westminster colleagues knew anything about these further allegations. The Liberal Democrats say they have no paperwork on Smith. And Lord Steele says he received no complaints against Smith when a Liberal MP. In 1988, again like Savile, Smith received a knighthood. His party leader would have been consulted. And when Smith died 3 years ago, senior colleagues paid rich tribute.
But I think of him as a big-hearted man, because another thing he did, he gave 105%.
He really was quite literally a larger-than-life figure, and he will be sorely, sorely missed.
People are now asking why so many opportunities were missed to stop Smith. Last year, the Lib Dem leader Nick Clegg said Smith should have been more thoroughly investigated at the time. But the solicitor working with Smith's victims says there are questions to answer.
The victims, with justification, could be saying to the Liberals, hang on a minute, we were abused by your man. What are you going to do about it?
The Liberal Democrats are already facing embarrassment after they were accused in a Channel 4 news report of sitting on complaints of sexual harassment against one of their most senior and powerful officers, Lord Reynard. Now, those damaged by Sir Cyril Smith want recognition of who he really was.
it could have been stopped. And we won't be in this position where me and you are having this conversation about somebody that has destroyed probably hundreds of lives.
Liz McKean reporting, and we did ask the Liberal Democrat leader Nick Clegg and former leader Lord Steele for an interview, but they were not available to appear on this programme. We're joined now from Birmingham by the Liberal Democrat MP John Hemming. John Hemming, this is a sorry tale for humanity, let alone for the Liberal Democrat Party.
Or the Labour Party, which were involved in talking to the DPP and stopping him being prosecuted. Yes, we shouldn't really worry about the party.
That's an important point, isn't it? Because, of course, that happened because there was a very, very narrow majority at the time, and Cyril Smith was it.
Well, no, actually, remember, Cyril Smith wasn't always a member of the Liberals. He was actually a Labour councillor for part of the time as well. And I don't think... We need to look at this from the point of view of how we stop cover-ups. Because you've got this situation, you've got what happens with Hillsborough, you've got current things like Michael Doherty's case. And it's far too easy for powerful people to get away with wrongdoing and nothing be done about it.
But are you sure? Because these days, I mean, like it or not, this would have found its way onto the internet. Somehow, in this much more liberated period, we would have found out about it.
Well, I am aware of things that are still kept secret by the use of court orders, for instance, criminal allegations which are being kept under wraps today, and obviously your editor doesn't want to go to jail, so I can't mention them.
Well, there are super injunctions, but they too had their day, sort of thing, didn't they? I mean, we can paint this into some kind of mass conspiracy. The real issue, surely, is the particular party which seems to have had an awful lot of problems in this direction, i.e. yours, really getting to grips properly with it.
Well, we need to make sure that when people commit criminal offences, that there is a mechanism, and I would argue through controls on judicial review. In fact, last year, one of my reasons why I'm not very happy at all with Nick Clegg is that he blocked my private members bill, which would have made it much easier for people to challenge a failure to prosecute. And so that the victims in these situations wouldn't have to wait 40, 50, 60 years for justice, but would be able to get it in the short term. And I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to look at society and see how often these cover-ups happen. We also need to look at what the involvement of the security services in this. Were they involved also in Kincora? I'm worried about what happened with Leah McGrath Goodman, who was banned from this country because she wanted to investigate Jimmy Savile. And that was before it became public, and I'm trying to investigate that at the moment.
Well, we'll keep in touch with you and see if you come up with anything. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, John Hemming. Thank you.
No problem.
You can see the whole of that report tonight on tonight's dispatches. The paedophile MP, how Cyril Smith got away with it tonight, 7:05, right here on Channel 4. Jackie.